I know. I know. That's up to you. If you want to go sit in the kiddie pool, go sit in the kiddie pool. I'm just telling you, your bill's going to go up because it's been hotter and the air conditioner is running longer. No, no, I don't deserve that. You kiss your mother with that mouth? All right. I love you too, Mom. Bye. Welcome back to Ask the Energy Advisor. I'm your Noble REMC Energy Advisor, Brian Hawk. Just wanted to touch base. We've had a somewhat of a cold winter, cold snap this winter. We've had a hot summer, a couple hot months this summer. One of the things I deal with all the time is, why is my electric bill so high? And we just want to talk about the primary drivers, or some of the things that drive your electric bill, and some of the things that you can do to lower your electric bill. So, primary reason for high electric bills, most of our load is coming from heating and cooling, whether that be baseboard heat, ceiling cable heat, electric furnaces, LP furnace with an AC. So in the summertime, we're going to talk about cooling a lot today. Ceiling fan or whole home fans, heat pumps, whether it's an air source heat pump or ground source heat pump, aka geothermal. Those are your primary drivers, heavy hitters for the electric bill. Being an electric company, we like to see electric dryers out there, electric stoves. Well pump, that's another one that's kind of a sneaky one. I have found several instances where a well pump kicks on, whether there's a hole in the line, whether it's in the house or whether it's between the well and the house. That can kick on, and that's about 1,500 watts, 1,200 watts nonstop. So what that does is that contributes to your base load. So we've got all these heavy hitters over here, and then your base load is what is always on. And that's 24/7. I look up your account, I've seen base load anywhere from 300 watts nonstop all the way up to 1,500 to 1,700 watts nonstop. That's a pretty high base load. So that is a very good indicator or a very good driver of a high electric bill. Some of the things that fall into that base load category: a dehumidifier, whether it's in the home or in the basement. Oxygen machine, that's another one that is pretty heavy hitter when it comes to an electric bill. Incandescent lights, we don't run into that very often anymore. Some of the older homes still have them. Believe it or not, those will drive a base load. Refrigerators, freezers, always on. We've got phantom power, which is TVs, game consoles, computers, chargers, and chargers are just a small portion of it, but they're part of it. And circulation fan, whether it's a ceiling fan, whether it's a whole home fan, whether it's just having your fan and your air handler either always on or on circulate. That's going to contribute to your base load. So with that, we're going to break down what is a watt, and how does it turn into a kilowatt hour, and how does that turn into money on your bill. So we talked a little bit earlier about the dehumidifier, and that is the one that most people don't draw a line in, that this is adding substantial amount of money to my electric bill. Anytime I go into a home and look at an appliance, I look at the data plate, and that gives me some information that I can calculate out what we can probably expect on that electric bill. And so we're going to use a dehumidifier. It doesn't look like much, it doesn't sound like much, it's out of sight, out of mind, but it's a silent energy bill killer. When I look at the back of a data plate, I'm looking for how many amps is that unit pulling. And so the dehumidifier, I'm a mathematical genius, so I went ahead and pre-calculated this so I could come up with an easy number so I could pre-calculate in my head and sound great. This particular dehumidifier is using 5.8 amps. And we're going to multiply that times the voltage coming in, so that's 120 volts. That gives us 696 watts. I missed a little bit, so for this argument's sake, we're going to call that 700 even. So this dehumidifier is running at 700 watts as long as it is on. It'll fluctuate a little bit because it has a compressor in there, but it's pretty much 700 watts. So 700 watts is 0.7 kW. It's 0.7 kilowatts, or 0.7 thousand watts. We're going to take that kW and multiply it times 1 hour, and that turns it into a kilowatt hour. That's how we bill, that's how we track, that's how you pay for electricity. So we've got 0.7 kilowatt hours, and for argument's sake, because I'm such a genius, we're going to call our rate 10 cents. Makes it super simple. That's costing you 7 cents per hour to operate. That doesn't sound like much. In fact, it is pretty cheap. But when you stop and figure that there are 720 hours in an average month, that calculates out to $50.40 every month on your electric bill. for a dehumidifier that's down in the basement, out of sight, out of mind. So oxygen machine is very, very similar, and these amps, it can be anywhere from, if they put it on an energy saving mode, could be 3.1, 3.2. I've seen these in a small package, I've seen those as high as 7.6 amps. So if you've got a dehumidifier in the basement, you know, oxygen machine, that type of equipment, that could be a primary driver on your electric bill, and that's part of that base load category. So why is my neighbor's house so much cheaper than my house? They're about the same size. They were built about the same time. There's no way his bill should be that much less than mine. You know, that's one I get all the time. You really can't compare home to home. You would think it would be that simple, but it's really not. According to my intro, you know, they were built about the same time. Not all builders build the same way. Not all insulation is the same. Not all construction methods are the same. You know, how leaky is your house versus your neighbor's? What kind of windows do you have? What level of insulation do you have in your attic? What level of insulation do you have in your walls? Those all contribute to an energy cost for your home. How we come up with a way to not necessarily track that, but put that into a tangible form is we use heating degree days and cooling degree days. 65 degrees is our base temperature. That's what we compare everything to. So at 65 degrees, your home shouldn't need any heating. At 65 degrees, your home shouldn't need any cooling. So anything we do on the heating or cooling side, we're going against 65 degrees. So we talked about air conditioning right out of the gate. So if we have a 60 degree low and an 80 degree high in a 24-hour period, that's 70 degrees. So being a math genius, that's 5 degrees different from 65 degrees. So we're 5 degrees higher than 65, so we had 5 cooling degree days. Just the opposite for heating degree days, and we use it just the same. If we come up with an average temperature of 55 degrees, it's 10 heating degree days for that 24-hour period. So that's how we normalize weather effects on energy consumption. Okay, so we've given you a lot of information. Again, don't want to give you all that information without giving you a way to potentially save. So how can I save money on my electric bill? We're going to give you the low to no cost options first. Number one, again, AC video, we're in air conditioning season, so we're going to go to air conditioning only. Make sure your outdoor condenser is clean. One of the biggest drivers of an energy bill, especially, and it can actually prematurely kill your equipment, is the outside of that condenser just gets covered in cottonwood dander, grass, weeds, you know, anything blown grass when you're cutting grass gets up in those fins, and that chokes that down. Well, that chokes down the efficiency and the effectiveness of it. So not only is it working harder, it's working longer. That adds to your bill, so keep that clean. The air filter in your air handler. If you have pets, I highly recommend just replace it once a month. That way there's no worry about it. If you have a 4-inch filter, you know, a 2-inch filter, they're getting a little bit more expensive. At least a visual inspection every month. Don't have pets, your house is obviously cleaner than mine, so you know it's probably not going to be as big a deal, but it's one of those things that visual inspection once a month. You know, don't skimp out on this, because again, it's going to make that air handler or that blower motor in your air handler work harder, takes more energy to turn it, doesn't get as much air across it anyway, so it's not as effective, costing you more. Another one, if you have west-facing windows, a wall of west-facing windows, and especially if they're older windows, they likely don't have any low-E coating in them. You can go out, buy window tint online, and it's not like our cool cars in the late 80s where we just blacked everything out. It's just it's a low-E tint, so you're not going to lose a lot of visibility through the glass. That is a great way to keep heat outside and keep that heat gain from happening inside. Thermal curtains, that's another one. That's another great way. You can do the same thing. I personally don't like the looks of them, but that's if you do. If you've already got curtains and you don't mind it, you know, thermal curtains are a great way to do that also. Super cool at night. Obviously, it's cooler outside at night, so you can turn your thermostat if you're comfortable sleeping in 65-degree weather or air. Turn that thermostat down to 65 overnight, and that'll cool your entire house down. It takes less energy to do that because it's cooler. Your delta between inside and outside is lower. Runs much more efficiently that way. When you get ready to leave, you can either program your thermostat to do this or do it manually. Get ready to leave, bring it back up to the set point of where you want it to be when you get home, and then you can be comfortable. It'll likely take most of the day for that heat loss or that heat gain to come in and make your air conditioner kick back on. Really, refrigerators, freezers, if you have multiple refrigerators and freezers and they're not full If there's any way to condense and combine, shut these off. They're not huge energy gobblers, but what they do is they're part of that base load, and that always on 24/7. If it's not full, it's not efficient. So if you can condense that down. Department of Energy, I believe it's 2006. If your refrigerator freezer is older than 2006, I believe that's where the Department of Energy drew the line and said you can replace that with a new unit, and the energy savings will eventually pay for the cost of the new appliance. Don't want to get your hopes up. You're not going to see a $100 reduction in your electric bill by replacing a refrigerator, but it will pay for itself over time. Ceiling fans, just remember, ceiling fans are comfort only. If you're not in the space, they don't need to be on. All they do is move air, and that gives us a feeling of cool on our skin. So comfort only. Let's go to the costly options. One of the best things that we've got going for us now, we have some energy efficient programs through our Power Moves program, and then the federal government has added a ton of money through the Inflation Reduction Act. So keep in mind, there are some 30% just federal tax credits. They do have some maximums per year, but the nice thing is they reset every year. So there's some opportunity there. Any AC heat pump that's running on R22, you can replace that with a new one, especially if you go with a higher efficiency. You're probably you're probably a 10 SEER air conditioner. They're at 20, 18, 20, 22, 24 SEER now, so you're gaining 50 to 80% energy savings right there. If you're in a home that has window units because you don't have any ductwork, you know, these guys right here, ductless heat pumps, are just rock stars. They have gotten better. I've been in this position for 7 years, and for 7 years straight, they've just gotten more efficient, and they're giving out more heat, which we're in a heat-driven climate, but even their AC is top-notch. So not having ductwork, these, I could not recommend this enough for you. Very comfortable, very low cost, very quiet. There, you just set it, forget it. And then finally, one that we've had very good success with is heat pump water heater. So if you have a standard electric water heater, especially if it's in a basement, out of sight, you know, heat pump water heater, you go from a 4,500 watt element in your standard electric water heater to a 600 watt heat pump on top of the water heater. So I personally have one in my house. As soon as I put it in, I saw between $20 and $25 reduction in my electric bill, just like that. So again, these are the costly ones, but we're in a time right now, I mean, it's 2024, coming into the fall of 2024. The Inflation Reduction Act is going to be here for a while, so there's good money and there are good programs available. Likely, and if you're not in our area, but likely in your state, your area, there's going to be some other rebates through your electric company or through the state that you can actually take part in. So with that, I think we squeezed it all in. I'm not real sure, but like I said, as always, if you have any questions, just feel free to give me a call. Again, Brian Hawk, your energy advisor at REMC. Thank you.